He had a ticket. He had a visa. They still sent him home. This is the World Cup story nobody wanted to tell. While billions watched the goals, the upsets, the penalties, a different story was quietly happening. At airports, at embassy windows, at kitchen tables in Casablanca and Tehran and Dakar. A story about fans who were promised a seat at the greatest show on earth and then had that promise taken away. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at the World Cup the same way again. The 2026 FIFA World Cup was marketed as the most inclusive tournament in history. 48 teams, 3 host nations, 16 cities, more countries represented than ever before in the sport's 96-year history. FIFA President Gianni Infantino stood in front of the world and said, and I'm quoting him directly, "Everyone will be welcome. This will be the most incredible World Cup ever." For fans across the globe, that sounded like a green light. Supporters in Morocco started booking flights. Fans in Senegal started saving. Families in Iran started dreaming. Because this was their moment, their team, their colors, their World Cup. But what FIFA promised and what the United States government delivered were two completely different things. And the gap between those two things destroyed the dreams of millions of people. Here is what happened and when. In June 2025, the United States government signed a presidential proclamation banning citizens of 19 countries from receiving U.S. visas. 6 months later, in December 2025, the list expanded. Now 39 countries were affected. 39 countries. That is roughly 20% of every nation on Earth blocked from entering one of the 3 World Cup host nations. Among the 48 countries who qualified for this tournament, 4 were directly on that list: Iran, Haiti, Ivory Coast, Senegal. Their players were eventually exempted after months of chaos. Their fans? Completely blocked. Now here is the part that should make you furious. FIFA created a program called FIFA Pass, a special fast-track visa appointment system for World Cup ticket holders. Fans signed up. They attended their appointments. They showed their tickets, their hotel bookings, their flight reservations, and then they were told no. Because buried in the FIFA Pass small print was one sentence that changed everything. FIFA Pass does not override travel bans. So fans got priority access to visa appointments just to be rejected faster. Their tickets were worthless, their dreams were worthless, and nobody warned them in time. Now let me tell you about the man in our title. His name is Omar Artan. He is 34 years old, from Somalia, and in 2026, he was selected by FIFA as one of only 52 referees in the entire world chosen to officiate at the World Cup. Think about what that means. Millions of referees referee football. Thousands do it professionally. Only 52 get to stand on that pitch at a World Cup. Omar Artan was one of them. He would have been the first Somali referee in World Cup history. He packed his bags. He flew to Miami. He had a valid U.S. visa issued by the U.S. government itself. He had his official FIFA credentials. He had every document that existed to prove he belonged there. At Miami International Airport, U.S. Customs stopped him. They cited, quote, vetting concerns. No details, no explanation given. He was put back on a plane, sent home. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security later confirmed he was, quote, determined to be inadmissible. Still, no reason given. Somalia is one of the 39 banned countries. His visa, it turned out, could be overruled at the door. A man vetted by FIFA, approved by the U.S. State Department, carrying every credential in existence, turned away at the airport. And the White House, when asked for an explanation, said only, it was for very good reasons, and offered nothing more. His dream of standing on that pitch, of representing his country, of making history, ended at an immigration desk. But if Omar Artan's story made you angry, the Iran situation will make your jaw drop. Because what happened to Iran's national team has never happened to any team in World Cup history. Iran qualified, their players trained, they were ready. But for months, nobody knew if they would even be allowed to compete. In April 2026, a U.S. government envoy suggested publicly that Italy should simply take Iran's spot in the tournament. FIFA had to personally intervene. Infantino confirmed on the record, "The Iranian team is coming, for sure." Eventually, visas were granted for the players. But the support staff, the doctors, the analysts, the administrators, over a dozen of them were denied, including the president of the Iranian Football Federation. And Iran's team base camp? They had originally planned to stay in Arizona. The U.S. government said no. Players and staff could not stay overnight on U.S. soil, so Iran's national football team was forced to relocate their World Cup base camp to Tijuana, Mexico, playing their entire group stage on the U.S. West Coast, sleeping in a different country. Initially, reports indicated they could only cross the border on the actual day of their match and had to leave the same day. The Iranian embassy called it politically biased interference in sport. And yet, something beautiful happened in Tijuana that nobody expected. The Mexican fans adopted Iran. They showed up to training sessions. They cheered for them in the streets. They made the Iranian team feel welcome in a way the actual host country never did. Football, doing what governments couldn't. Now, I want to tell you about the people who hurt most quietly. Not the players, not the diplomats, the fans. In Qatar 2022, Moroccan supporters became the soul of the World Cup. Their drums, their passion, their colors, the world fell in love with them. When Morocco qualified for 2026, their fans began preparing immediately. One supporters association, long established, well-organized, with members who had traveled internationally for tournaments before, submitted 42 visa applications together. All with stable jobs, clean travel records. Some had followed Morocco to tournaments on 3 different continents. 40 out of 42 were rejected, under a legal clause that says the consular officer simply doubts they will return home. No individual interviews, no appeals process, no explanation, just denied. Behind those 40 rejections are real people, fans who saved for months, people with empty hotel rooms they cannot get refunds on, families who built entire holidays around this World Cup. Some lost the equivalent of tens of thousands of dirhams, money they will never see again. And here is the final gut punch. Morocco is still in this tournament. They beat the Netherlands in the round of 16. The Atlas Lions are still fighting, still winning. And the fans who loved them longest, who saved the hardest, who deserved to be there most, are watching from home. So let's ask the question nobody in football wants to answer. How did the most inclusive World Cup in history become a tournament of exclusion? Jules Boykoff, a professor who literally wrote the book on this World Cup, called it a massive paradox. More teams than ever, more nations than ever. And yet, because of the policies of one host nation, he said it looks more like a World Cup of exclusion than inclusion. And FIFA? When journalists asked about the visa denials, FIFA's official response was this: FIFA is not involved in host country immigration processes. Read that again. The organization that chose the United States as a host country, the organization that signed the hosting agreement, the organization that profits from every single ticket sold, was not involved. Meanwhile, over 120 human rights organizations issued an official travel warning to anyone coming to America for the World Cup. The U.S. government confirmed ICE agents would be present inside World Cup stadiums. Workers at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles voted to strike over fears their coworkers could be detained while serving food to fans at a football match. This stopped being a football story a long time ago. It became a story about who gets to celebrate, about whose joy matters, about what the word welcome actually means. And here is what I find most remarkable about all of this. Despite everything, the bans, the bonds, the denials, the referee turned back at the airport, the national team sleeping in Mexico. The football happened anyway. Iran played. Senegal played. Ivory Coast played. Haiti played. And the fans who couldn't be there, they found other ways. Fan zones in Toronto and Vancouver, screenings in Casablanca and Dakar, living rooms packed in Tehran and Abidjan. They watched together. They cried together. They cheered together. Because football doesn't need a visa. It doesn't need a border crossing. It doesn't need government approval. It just needs people who love it. And that, no proclamation in the world can take away. The 2026 World Cup will be remembered for incredible goals, impossible upsets, and moments of pure magic on the pitch. But it should also be remembered for this, that when the world was invited to celebrate, the door was locked for millions who simply wanted to watch. That's the story nobody wanted to tell. We just told it. If this video opened your eyes, share it, because the fans who couldn't be there deserve to be heard. Tell me in the comments, which part of this shocked you most? And subscribe, because the World Cup is still alive, and there are more stories like this one still waiting to be told.